Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this Saturday live stream, news summary from Moscow program. Today is 6th of September. Now it's 1 o'clock almost. I'm a bit later, middle of the day by Moscow time. And as always, I have prepared quite a number of news for a news segment on some major developments that Russian media and public is paying attention to. Hopefully, you will find it interesting and informative. And if so, dear friends, please like the video and leave some commentary. More likes and comments most likely will help the channel to reach wider audience, or at least to deal with the extremely aggressive algorithm that tries on literally on daily basis to kill independent channels, especially from Russia, channels that are sharing information that Western so-called elites and their assets not gonna like. And so, yes, likes and comments will help. Also, dear friends, this is, I decided to make on weekends, basically fundraising streams. I will count Saturday, Sunday if there will be any donations together. And well, hopefully, this fundraising will work out okay. If I deserve your support, of course, and I'll be able to work full time next week or two on this project. And yes, if you want to donate, dear friends, you can use several means. You can donate through PayPal platform or Boosty platform. Links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. Same time, you can subscribe to my Patreon page or page that I have on the Boosty platform too. You can decide your level of monthly support there from $5 and up. It's up to you. Also, during the streams, like at this particular moment, because I'm streaming on to my channel simultaneously on YouTube and Rumble, you can use a round feature on Rumble or Super Chat to donate and ask a question or highlight any commentary you want, and you can become a premium subscriber also on Rumble. Everything counts, of course, dear friends, to maintain this project, and maybe sometime in the future even be able to further develop. So, okay, that's been said, dear friends. Let me start with the news segment. If you want to support, all the links are on this video in description box and will be in the pinned comment. And now news segment, lot of news to unpack, of course, a lot of news. And first of all, let me once again share with you information that I spoke about in previous updates about decision of 26 countries, allegedly, according to French President Emmanuel Macron, to participate in a troop deployment into to control the territory. This announcement was made by Macron a couple of days ago, and we did not know details about it. And yesterday, Zelensky, head of Western-backed terrorist regime in Ukraine, made some clearance on that. He stated that it will definitely not be units, but thousands and thousands of troops that NATO will deploy in Ukraine. And on this very topic, today we got this report from that many media outlets pay attention, including RT, that US generals allegedly are also involved in European plan to send at least 10,000 troops to Ukraine. Originally, this report is coming from Wall Street Journal. Let me give you some details on that. So, top US military officials have been involved in drawing up a plan for security guarantees for Kiev, advocated by the Paris and the London, that includes a massive troop deployment to Ukraine. The Wall Street Journal reported on Thursday, citing European diplomat. The regime drawn up primarily by European army chiefs includes two groups of forces that are to be sent to Ukraine. According to the report, one of them would be tasked with training and assistance to the Ukrainian military, while the second would serve as a reassurance force for Kiev. The troops are to be deployed once Moscow and Kiev reach a peace deal, and they are always pointing out, enemies of Russia, by the way, that they will deploy troops only if a peace agreement is reached or ceasefire, while in reality we'll understand that NATO's countries, enemies of Russia, basically are preparing their troops for incursion into Ukraine to derail any possibilities of sustainable peace being achieved, because they know perfectly well and whatever disguise, and Russian leadership was very clear on that. And in past 24 to 48 hours, quite a number of statements were again made on this very matter by Russian president, by press spokesman of the Russian president, by former Russian president. So it is very clear where Moscow stands on the issue. And for example, let me once again, dear friends, share with you this short video of Russian president when he spoke about NATO troops on Kiev controlled territory, how they will be treated. And seems like I don't have that video, but I think I can give you a former Russian president's statement on the matter. This is Dmitry Medvedev.
Значит, ересь такая, то, чем они занимаются, или, выражаясь на английском языке, это bullshit, или просто shit, как угодно называйте. Вот они собираются и рассуждают на тему того, какие гарантии дать этой самой Украине. А они сами себе что-то там придумывают, вытаскивают из разных мест, потом предъявляют это в качестве гарантий. Никаких последствий это иметь не будет.
There is a translation in English, probably you have read. What former Russian president and current deputy chairman of the Security Council stated there is that it's all BS, basically. What globalists and globalist control regimes in the West are coming up with. According to Medvedev, all their games will have no any consequences. Maybe too optimistic statement, because I think there will be consequences, by the way, and these consequences will change this world forever, to put it mildly. And soon we're going to find out. Russian president himself, as you can see, dear friends, are on your screen right now, stated that deployment of any foreign troops, including NATO troops, in Kiev-controlled territory will be further escalation, and Russian militaries would treat them as legit targets. That's it. Moscow is very clear where it stands, and once again, dear friends, we should keep in mind that all these talks by the West about deployment of troops are intended to derail any even slightest possibilities that a long-lasting peace actually will be reached. And that's why they are articulating that, well, we will deploy troops when peace is reached, when there is a ceasefire. By doing so, they're kind of pushing Russia to never agree on either ceasefire or the escalation. That's what they want, by the way. They want further escalation, and as I said in my previous updates, me personally, based on all the information, all the reports that is available from open sources, I'm predicting next level or next phase of escalation to happen in upcoming days or maybe weeks, but it seems absolutely inevitable at this point. We have just too many indicators about it. I remind you that, for example, just a couple of weeks ago, there was reports that U.S. agreed to transfer long-range MA array or whatever their long-range cruise missiles with the radius of operations, with the range of operations 400 to 450 kilometers, which is a longer range than already used against Russia, British and French cruise missiles, Storm Shadow and Scalp EG. And also Russian Foreign Intelligence Service just a couple of days ago reported that German Chancellor Friedrich Merz ordered its militaries to transfer on Kiev-controlled territory Taurus cruise missiles with a range 500 plus kilometers, with removed signs from factory, to make it sort of difficult to identify in which country these missiles were deployed. Of course, this would not work, by the way. This would not work because Russian engineers, Russian militaries, Russian experts know perfectly well what a Taurus missile is, what other missiles are, and whenever they will get their hands on fragments of those missiles, they would not be issued to identify what type of weapon is that and from which country. So US-made cruise missiles are most likely in dozens, potentially hundreds, already being transferred on Kiev-controlled territory. Taurus missiles already being transferred on Kiev-controlled territory, according to Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, and I have no reason to doubt that report. Also, on top of that, recently we see activization of a Kiev regime in terms of pushing the narrative that they increased capabilities of producing long-range missiles on their controlled territory, which is also, as I said, false narrative because all the long-range capabilities that formerly Kiev regime is coming from the NATO member states, and you tell me why they are sending so many weapons, long-range weapons, if they are not planning escalation. Only question I have personally at this point is, will NATO use its own planes too? Because Kiev regime only has like maybe a dozen planes left that are capable of launching these cruise missiles. And with this dozen of planes, they're not going to be able to create a sort of effect as a result of these massive long-range strikes that NATO or globalists would like to see. To have a kind of shock and awe effect, they will probably have to launch hundreds of missiles simultaneously, hundreds of drones simultaneously. They have to use their assets. US Secret Services, British Secret Services, German, French Secret Services, Israeli Secret Services, which is also part of Collective West. They have to use their assets and probably will use during this attack their assets that they have on Russian territory to orchestrate massive terrorist attacks, to orchestrate large-scale sabotage operations. Simultaneously, probably they will go ahead with their cyber attacks, massive cyber attacks on Russia to create a chaos, by the way, to create a situation that will resemble to sort of a collapse, right? Same time, I think during this strike, Western so-called elites going to try to conduct a decapitation strike on Russian militaries and the political leadership. I think that's exactly why Trump posted that strange photo that was yesterday or day before, when a photo that was made in Anchorage while Russian president was visiting. At one point, you remember B-2 and strategic bomber flew over the airfield, escorted by F-35 fighter jets. Russian president took her at air. Trump did the same, and that picture was shared by Trump, I guess probably hinting on the potential strikes. And we know what Western Collective West does whenever they are attacking whichever country. They are going they are trying to decapitate the leadership of that country, political leadership and military leadership. So I expect unprecedented scale of escalation to happen, by the way. All these talks about possible de-escalation between Moscow and Washington, all the statements that we hear before, especially from American side, is a part of deception operation. I'm quite sure about it. And U.S. President and U.S. Presidents Invoy, Witkoff, Trump and Witkoff, they were personally engaged once again in this deception operation, as they did with Iran, by the way, right before Iran was attacked. So we are basically on the edge of World War III, hot phase of the World War III scale. I don't know, hard to tell, but it's going to be unprecedented for sure. And Moscow will have no option. One should keep in mind that after this attack on Russia, Moscow will have no option but to retaliate. most likely with the conventional weapons. We can remember Oreshnik missiles. Russia has, multiple means of long-range strike on an enemy. It's not just Oreshnik, of course. So most likely Russian retaliation will be with the conventional weapons, and retaliation not just on the Kiev-controlled territory, but also on the military and logistical assets of NATO countries that will participate in this upcoming, in my personal opinion, large-scale assault on Russia. And when Russia retaliates, that retaliation is going to be on a scale that after that, maybe we will see a couple of exchanges between the sides, and at one point, Western ruling class will have to make choice. Either they are agreeing to de-escalate on Russian terms, or either they are capitulating basically, or they will escalate further, which will mean full-scale nuclear war between Russia and NATO, and that is the end of everything, right? There are going to be no winners in that war. My personal understanding is that our collective West will eventually capitulate after Russian inevitable retaliatory strike for upcoming unprecedented scale attack on Russia. And I can understand that some members of our community might say, well, Levan, what you are talking about, there are no reason to think that NATO gonna attack Russia on the scale that you are talking about. I think, if I learn anything, by the way, in my 30 plus years in journalism while working with a large volume of information, if I learn something, how to deal with information, how to work with information, then my experience is telling me that West is planning this unprecedented scale of strikes on Russia and a tremendous level of escalation, after which Moscow will have to retaliate for sure, and will retaliate with tremendous force, by the way. West might hope to achieve shock and awe reaction or effect with their attack on Russia, but in reality, it's a Russian retaliatory strike that will actually achieve such a effect in the West, in the Western elites, among Western elites, among Western societies, because that retaliation is going to be something extraordinary also, right? So that's where we are, dear friends. That's where we are, very close to age, let's say, and all this due to hostility and inadequate policies of their collective West countries, Western ruling class in general, and I guess vast majority of our community will agree on that. If Western elites acted adequately, not just now, but basically since the collapse of Soviet Union, Russia would be actually a part of definitely not in a position of enemy as it is right now for the West, right? And it's West that designated Russia as an enemy for themselves, right? After Soviet Union collapsed, there was a chance, by the way, for reunification, sort of, and this chance was missed due to Western elites. So whatever is going to happen, no one should blame Russia for that, by the way. No one. Anyways, dear friends, let me continue with some more news. And TASS news agencies also reporting about statements of Medvedev in regards to all these talks about deployment of NATO troops into Ukraine in regards to the so-called security guarantees. Let me give you some details. That short video was not as telling. So no security guarantees for Ukraine can be developed without taking Russia's position into account, Russian Secretary Council Deputy Chairman Dmitry Medvedev said. We have quote here, the coalition of willing, are gathering and discussing what guarantees to give to Ukraine, but did they ask us, Medvedev is asking, if there is a conflict or the special military operation, they should at least consult with us when developing any proposals. Instead, they come up with something themselves, put it out of thin air, and present it as guarantees. This will have no consequences. That is absolutely obvious. That is how we feel about it, Medvedev said. And yeah, I think this is maybe naive taker from Medvedev, that there are gonna be no consequences due to this activity of the Western ruling class. Unfortunately, we're gonna see consequences of that very soon, all of us, right? Also, dear friends, it's not just a Russian president or former president that are talking about this topic, but BBC journalist, so-called journalist, by the way, also spoke with the press spokesman of the Russian president and on the matter. And let me give you a short video of Peskov's statements. He explained to this British so-called journalist in a calm manner what is going on. Let me give you this video on that term.
Stand there speaking about ensuring security guarantees for Ukraine by deploying European forces, European regiments in Ukraine. Thus, they're returning back to the main reason of the conflict. The main reason of the conflict was the attempt of NATO to infiltrate into Ukraine, thus endangering our country. So we consider it a danger for us. Presence of international forces or any foreign forces or NATO country forces on the soil of Ukraine next to our borders. So in our understanding, it will not help us get closer to the solution of the Ukrainian conflict.
But why doesn't Ukraine have the right, as far as Russia is concerned, to invite whoever it wants, whichever soldiers it wants onto its territory? I mean, Russia is inviting North Korean troops.
Then it's a danger for us. It's a real danger for us because we are an enemy of NATO.
North Korean troops are a danger to Ukraine.
Written in NATO's documents. So we cannot afford that. And we'll do whatever is necessary to ensure our security. Preferably, would like to reach our goals by diplomatic and peaceful means. When we don't have these possibilities, we'll continue special military operation.
So that's the Peskov's answer there, friends. He once again reiterated that Western troops or NATO troops are absolutely unacceptable on Kiev-controlled territory, because after all, one of the root causes of this crisis is actually expansion of the NATO, right, towards the east, towards the Russian borders, and attempt of NATO, since that was openly declared in 2008, by the way, to bring Ukraine into NATO and then eventually to build up NATO infrastructure on the Russian border directly. And of course, NATO troops under whatever disguise cannot be acceptable for Moscow in Ukraine, but these Western so-called journalists are trying to play around if they are either they are playing stupid, or they really are that stupid, that they are painting picture that they don't really understand why Moscow is against it. I mean, really, it's just at this point, by the way, I'm telling you, it is becoming absolutely nonsensical to have any discussion with the representatives of the Western world. It does makes no freaking sense no more, right? To have any talks on any level with the so-called elites of the West, because they are either really that stupid or just acting stupid. So, what kind of agreement you might have with in such situation? And this so-called journalist of BBC is also like acting stupid, isn't it? I mean, well, North Koreans came into Russia. Yes, they came, and they still are here, by the way. North Koreans are helping Russia right now to demine, for example, Kursk salient area, right? And what? If you are asking why Russia is against it, you have been given an answer. What North Korea, what Vietnam, what are you talking about? You are interested why Moscow is against that? So you have an answer. Because this, and this. That's it. Either take it or leave it, But anyways, by the way, I'm telling you, this conflict will end when our West will capitulate. and they're gonna capitulate. I mean, Western elites, by the way. It's just absolutely inevitable. Let me give you some more news, dear friends. And I just said that we are on the edge of a hot phase of or kinetic phase of the World War III between NATO and Russia, and I think this is true. We are, I mean, step away potentially from World War III due to this insanity of the Western ruling class, globalists and globalist controlled regimes in the West. But one of the ideologists of MAGA movement in US, Bannon, is actually thinking that this kinetic phase of the Third World War has already begun. Let me give you his take on the matter. Share your opinion, dear friends. Are you agree with him or you agree with me that what you think? We already are in that kinetic phase of World War III, or just step or two away? I think there is a still step or two before actual open conflict will happen, right? We understand that NATO troops are involved, NATO intelligence, NATO militaries are involved directly in the confrontation with Russia. Of course, these long-range strikes, by the way, a clear example of that. And there was many instances when NATO troops were eliminated, special forces mainly, eliminated on Kiev-controlled territory during the battles, right? But nevertheless, we have not seen yet, at least, large-scale open confrontation between, open, by the way, not secretive one, but open confrontation between Russia and the NATO. So therefore, I have to disagree with Bannon. We are still step or two step away from that phase when there will be actual war between NATO and Russia, in which either everyone will lose, literally everyone, and the world will end, or NATO, collective West globalists will be forced to capitulate. I mean, there's these two options only, by the way, left. That's how dramatic the situation actually is. And well, let me give you a video of Bannon, by the way. It's so sad, man, that people worldwide, especially in the West, still don't understand how dangerous this current situation is, man. That's their Bannon on their issue.
The Third World War. We have to get focused. We are in the kinetic part of the Third World War. We have to get focused. We can't let the Mitch McConnells and all these people that brought us here with policies that have led us to disaster, that have allowed China to actually do a flex on the think about that. Everything the United States of America did on a war they never wanted to get involved in. Everything we did, all the blood, all the sacrifice, all the resources, all the toughness, the firebombing of Japan, the bombing of Germany, the submarine warfare, the landings in North Africa, Normandy, all of it. The guys that fought in China, of which President Trump said, hey, wouldn't you just give us a little thank you for that? Of all the sacrifice, they choose the 80th anniversary to get in your grill and convince the world that was our victory. And the Americans are nothing. So we're in it. And we don't have a choice. We have to shut them down now. They're an existential threat to the Lao Beijing, the folks in China. They're a threat to East Asia. They're a threat to all our allies. And they're a threat to the people of the United States. What they've done in this country to co-opt Wall Street, to co-opt the tech oligarchs. And that's what America First is, putting our citizens, our sovereignty, our country first. If we do that, we're going to win. There's no doubt we're going to win. But if we flinch on that at any time.
So I don't know, man. I don't know. Bannon is losing it. Bannon is losing it. I don't think America First is to go in a kinetic war with Russia and China, because U.S. gonna be obliterated, right? If this is the America First that Bannon is presenting here, and he is also saying that kinetic phase of the war has started, then wow, that's quite a shift from what I thought America First was. This guy is truly insane, man. This guy is truly insane. If now he's pushing for actual war, right? with Russia and NATO. But that's what is happening, by the way, and we have to pay attention to these developments, because if not, then we might find ourselves being not just not prepared. I mean, if it's even possible to prepare for a world war, but we might find ourselves in much more difficult situation than otherwise, right? Completely off guard, which we cannot afford. And I don't know, man. Maybe I'm kind of tired talking about it, but I mean, maybe somehow societies in the West, including US, will wake up really and try at least to influence their crazy elites, because I mean, do they want to live, for God's sake? Do they want their kids to live and their grandkids and what the hell? I mean, is there a collective West is become suicidal suddenly? I mean, all of them. What the hell, man? What the hell is going on there? I don't know. I know, dear friends, there is a tiny minorities in every Western countries, by the way, that are trying to do something about this madness, but they are just incapable to influence much, right? Sadly, it's insane. By the way, it's insane. What can I say? And dear friends, because it's a fundraising, if there will be any donation or super chat or something, I will mention Ether. I will cut the stream, new segment, and I will highlight that there was donation, and they will continue. So yes, let's talk about some other news. And Zelensky, by the way, Zelensky once again refused to come to Moscow after Russian president invited him twice in the last couple of days, while also issuing security guarantees for him, right? And he had an interview with one of the Western propaganda outlets, and let me give you a little short video on that too, when he is refusing to come to Moscow.
To me, if you come to Moscow,
he can come to Kiev. You know, if a person doesn't want to meet during the war, of course he can propose something which can't be acceptable by me or by other. But it's understandable. I can't go to Moscow when my country is under missiles, under attacks each day. I can't go.
This is nonsense. You have to go to Moscow if you want to save the people, right? That's what actual leaders do. When they are losing the fight, if they want to end the fight, they go to capital, or in whichever area, by the way, right? Of the where hostile side will say, just come here and capitulate, right? And that's what responsible leaders do, historically speaking. When they know they lost the war, right? They lost it. So to save the country and whatever is left of it, and first of all to save the people, you have to do what you have to do to end their hostilities. But Zelensky, by the way, is a puppet of globalists, of course. And he will sacrifice literally everybody on Kiev-controlled territory if that's what globalists want. And that's exactly what globalists want, right? Until Russia will force globalists and globalist-controlled regimes in the collective West to submission, to capitulation, they will continue sacrificing people on Kiev-controlled territory. And they will sacrifice all of them if they will manage to do it, right? So this is not an argument on part of Zelensky. This is a bloody clown. This bloody clown just highlights talking points that he's being given by globalists and globalist-controlled regimes. That's all.
To this capital of this terrorist, it's understandable, and he understands it.
This dirty animal is calling Russians terrorists. I mean, can you imagine that? This dirty animal that is directly guilty in death of more than 100 Russian civilians in a Crocus City whole terrorist attack that happened not that far ago, right? You remember they just months ago, in May that was, or a couple of months ago, they derailed their train, right, civilian passenger train, and they were sending more and more sabotage groups to derail the trains, right, and kill civilians. And this creature is calling Russians terrorists. Hopefully someone will take care of this animal, and soon, right, and will put to rest, as all rabid animals should be treated and are treated, right? That's all I can say about this nobody man, right? But yet again, because media pays attention to him, I'm reporting about it. So he refused to come to Moscow. And that means globalists are refusing to end the hostility. That's what that means, by the way. Globalists want to prolong this conflict. They still think that they can achieve strategical defeat of Russia. That's only explanation I can come up with why they are this desperate to prolong this war, right? And as I said earlier, dear friends, Russian president issued not just invitation for Zelensky twice in last couple of days, but also guarantees, security guarantees, right? Putin said, "You have my word. You can come here and we can talk in completely secure environment. If they want to come, they can. Russian side is ready, but they're not gonna do it." And Zelensky, yet again, I mean, as I said, Zelensky is highlighting position of globalists and talking points of the globalists. Also, by the way, there was a meeting between Zelensky and the Slovakian Prime Minister Fico yesterday on the borderline area between Slovakia and this former Soviet Republic, Ukraine. And well, according to reports that I see, Zelensky was tremendously insulting towards Fico. I don't know what Slovakian Prime Minister was expecting, but probably he is very upset, very upset, and understands now that this was a mistake to go and talk to this creature, Zelensky, who, by the way, to his face said that, well, Ukrainian terrorists will continue to destroy energy supplies lines to Hungary and Slovakia. He said it to his face, to Fico's face, right? And after the meeting, he reiterated again that they will continue to strike on Druzhba pipeline, for example, that supplies oil to Hungary and Slovakia. And all Budapest and Bratislava are doing, by the way, is statements. Until now, by the way, all they do is statements, while they can actually take action against this terrorist entity that so-called Ukraine is right now, and at least since 2014, right? What else have I bookmarked? And there's plenty of news, dear friends. RIA Novosti is reporting that Russian armed forces liberated Markovo settlement in a DPR. Settlement is located on a northern-western flank of Konstantinovka direction. And as you can see on your map, dear friends, right now, Konstantinovka is located here. And Russian troops, if my reading of the map is correct, are trying to create another cold room around Konstantinovka and are quite successful in this. There is one cold room in Pokrovsk-Mirnograd, and Kyrgyzstan's forces are struggling to have a reinforcement or any supplies, because all the roads are under the Russian fire control, and something similar is about to happen with Konstantinovka. Russian troops, dear friends, I remind you that already are on the outskirts of the Konstantinovka, and DRGs operating inside the city itself. TASS news agency is also reporting that Trump yesterday posted yet another cringer post on his Truth Social. Someone has to control his social medias, by the way. Otherwise, world is laughing, man. World is laughing. Yesterday, for example, he posted this picture of Russian President Putin, Chinese leader Xi Jinping, and India's Prime Minister Modi. And his comment was, looks like we lost India and Russia to deepest, darkest China. He's insulting China, by the way, Chinese people, not just Chinese leadership, but Chinese people, while saying this crap, right? Probably he don't even understand that he's insulting 1.4 billion people by this nonsense, right? May they have a longer and prosperous future together, President Donald J. Trump, and he's kind of ironic there. So funny, man, unbelievable. And this is U.S. president. It's crazy, isn't it? And you know what? To lose something or to lose someone, you have to have a good relationships this someone, or you have to have this something, right? U.S. never had good relationships since the Second World War, at least, either with Russia or with India, by the way, for that matter. I remind you that in 1971, U.S. was leading charge against India, militarily speaking, and only reason U.S. and other NATO countries, together with Pakistan, did not strike on India, did not conduct a combined strike, is that, Soviet Union sent its fleet, by the way, including nuclear-capable fleet, right, against U.S. and NATO military assets, naval assets. And Moscow was very clear, you attack India, we will kill you all. Moscow was very clear, by the way, you attack India, we will kill you all, literally. And US stand down. US, UK, all the others run away like cowards. That's a history. It was 1971, by the way, right? After these developments, Bangladesh gained independence from Pakistan. It was called East Pakistan before that, isn't it? And so Bangladesh should be grateful to Moscow forever, by the way, for its existence. And to India too, by the way. It was India, Indian people that helped Bangladesh, to Bangladesh and people of Bangladesh to gain independence from Islamabad. Some of them forget about this, right? And recently they conducted a coup d'etat, basically, and practically destroyed the ties with India, which is crazy stuff to do, but nevertheless, right? So that's where Trump is, by the way. He thinks U.S. lost Russia and India, while there was never good relationships between these three, right? After Second World War, at least. When U.S. was created, by the way, Russia was actually ally of U.S., right? Russia helped U.S. to gain independence from British Empire. Russia helped northern forces to save the country during the Civil War in U.S., right? So Russia actually was good ally, one might argue, for Washington for quite a while, until U.S. itself became hostile. It was always U.S.'s choice. It was always choice of U.S. politicians to escalate with Russia. No other way around. Also interesting news that Pentagon cuts defense funds for Baltic countries, including Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and these Chihuahua, rabbit Chihuahuas, by the way, on Baltics, definitely not going to be happy about it. All their troops, all their like 50 or 100 troops, I don't know how many they have, are now in high alert because of this development that U.S. is cutting funds for them. We are talking about some billion plus dollars that U.S. was wasting on so-called militaries of these rabid Baltic Chihuahuas. Also, dear friends, Abbas Araghchi, foreign minister of Israel, made remarks in regards to enlargement of Israeli nuclear facility, where allegedly plutonium production was increased by Israeli side to build more nukes, writer, and you see on your screen a comment from Abbas Araghchi. Let me read it for you. So Iran has long warned that the Western hysteria over the nuclear proliferation in our region is all fluff. This issue, in their view, is not the existence or expansion of atomic weapon arsenals. It's about who gets to advance scientifically, even with their peaceful nuclear programs. It is therefore not a surprise that there is differing defining Western silence over their apparent expansion of their only nuclear weapon arsenal in our region. The nukes are in the hands of their genocidal ally, the E3 and the US. E3 is three European countries, by the way. It's France, Germany, and the UK, right? And the US may be in denial, but their silence is eliminating any credibility to alter anything about non-proliferation. And Abbas Araghchi is on point there, absolutely. Do you hear anything being said by any Western capital about Israeli nuclear program or expansion of the Israeli nuclear program? Of course you have not. This topic is not discussed in the Western political field, in the Western media, so-called media. It is what it is. That's the reality we are living under. I will just disagree on one point with the Abbas Araghchi. Western so-called elites have no credibility. They have no credibility. They have no respect for from the rest of the world. By the way, they are rabid animals, right? All of them. Entire Western elite is a rabid animals. No one respects them. Everyone despises them, right? And so they cannot lose what they don't have. That's the only point that I will disagree with Abbas Araghchi here. He thinks these Western so-called elites are losing credibility. No, man, they lost the credibility a long time ago. They lost the respect a long time ago. Even in their own countries, by the way, more and more people are waking up and realizing that these fucking rabid animals should not be in charge, man. They are danger, existential threat for their own citizens, first of all, right? It is what it is, man. Matter is that time is running out, man. Time is running out. Maybe, yes, more and more people, step by step, but yes, awakening in the Western countries, but time is not on their side or our side, not on humanity's side, unfortunately. Also, by the way, when it comes to Israel, we all understand that Israeli secret services infiltrated big time U.S. political system, U.S. Media, so-called, and through dozens of operations, including with their Epstein operation, right? And we all know U.S. President Donald Trump personally is engaged in the cover-up of this Epstein story, together with FBI Director Patel, his deputy Bongino, whatever his freaking name is, and all the others, and the Speaker of House there in U.S., by the way, Mike Johnson, come up with some unbelievable statements to somehow cover up for Trump now. He said that Trump was an FBI informant who played a major role in taking down Epstein's child trafficking network, and the Democrats are twisting their Epstein files into hoax. This is unbelievable, by the way. This is just I'm telling you, level of degradation, degeneration of our political class in US has no boundaries. I mean, when you think they reach the lowest point, they are actually managing to get even lower than that every time, but they never disappoint in that. They're always capable to reach even lower place, right? And this is exactly that a moment they come up with this cover-up now for Trump, that he was FBI informant, and that's why he could be in Epstein files. I mean, really? Holy shit, man! And let me give you a short video, by the way, when Michael Johnson is talking about it. It's just unbelievable, man. It's insane, but that's the times that we are living in, man. Wild times, isn't it? So I do have a video of that. This is it.
What Epstein did is a hoax. It's a terrible, unspeakable evil. He believes that himself. When he first heard the rumor, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. He was an FBI informant to try to take this stuff down.
You see, by the way, you see, this is new talking point. This is new talking point, by the way, of Trump and his administration, I guess, to cover, to do some cover up for him. I mean, he's informant. Whomever, by the way, now gonna be mentioned as being in those Epstein lists. You know, they will say, oh, they were informants, by the way. That's their new talking point. Insane, man. And I guess society in US will take it. Majority, I guess. They will take it, by the way. You know, just look
The
at
president
this.
knows and has great sympathy for the women. Not saying that what Epstein did is a hoax. It's a terrible, unspeakable evil. He believes that himself. When he first heard the rumor, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. He was an FBI informant to try to take this stuff down. The president knows and has great sympathy for the women who have suffered these unspeakable harms. It's detestable to him. He and I have spoken about this as recently as 24 hours ago.
That's how insanity looks, by the way, right? Psychos, man. These are degenerates, man. Total degenerates. I mean, I don't want to use some harsh words, but I mean, what you will say about this? Is it not insane? It is, isn't it? It is, man. And while this craziness is happening, by the way, there are a lot of people in US, of course, decent people. I want to believe majority, by the way, even if they've been brainwashed, I want to believe that deep down in their day-to-day life, by the way, majority of Americans do no harm to nobody, and they're just living their lives, right? And are decent people. Like, this should be case everywhere in this world, by the way, right? But some Americans actually are moving step ahead, right, and taking a stand. And I give you, and I'm always, quite on regular basis giving you examples, by the way, that this is the case. And let me show you video of arrest of 2 US militaries, by the way. One is a veteran, another is an active duty military. I give you names, by the way. So 2 US military veterans, former Army, or both are veterans, sorry. Former Army intelligence officer Josephine Gilbert and retired Green Beret Anthony Aguilar were dragged out of in handcuffs from the Senate hearing after calling out Congress for complicity in genocide in Gaza. And well, I mean, two brave militaries from US, by the way, take the stand because they served their country to secure people of US, to secure US itself, right? And they are not happy that US is being used as an enforcer and ally in this genocide, right? Let me give you the video, by the way, of that.
American sitting at home right now needs to realize that you are paying for a genocide.
These are decorated officers. I mean, they're decorated veterans, by the way, right? I mean, you can see on their uniform.
Rise up, America, rise up. It is time to take back this country from these corrupt politicians. It is time. It is beyond time.
We're going out to the loaded dog.
Thank you for your service.
You see, dear friends, you see? So that's the people, by the way. We should always remember, no matter where we live, by the way, we should always remember that despite all the madness and craziness that politicians in US are doing all over the world, by the way, there are very decent people in US that won't no harm to nobody, right? And I'm giving you an example of that. I mean, US, these relatives, families of these veterans can be proud of them, by the way. Hopefully they're going to be released and they're not going to end up in jail, by the way, for opposing those corrupt politicians that are actually compliant in a genocide that Israel is committing against the Palestinians. Let me continue with some other news, and well, this is also important developments. Yesterday, a number of sources reported, including Reuters, by the way, that U.S. Ordered the deployment of Pentagon, basically, or U.S. military leadership, political leadership, whoever was engaged, ordered to deploy 10 F-35 fighter jets to a Puerto Rico airfield to conduct ops against drug cartels. These planes will arrive in an area late next week to contribute to U.S. build-up for pressuring Venezuela. And this is, I guess, response from Washington on flybys that Venezuelan aviation is conducting, by the way, last couple of days. Right? Yesterday, I reported that 2 Venezuelan F-16s buzz U.S. warship in the Caribbean. Give you name of that warship, USS Jason Dunham. And well, by the way, today or last night, even though U.S. President ordered some general to shut down these Venezuelan planes if they will do this again, well, they did it. They did it again. They again buzz U.S. warship, by the way, very same one, Jason Dunham. And well, I believe I had a video of that. I believe I had a video made from those planes, by the way. If I did not delete the video, I could. Maybe I did delete the video. Let me just check. But it is factual, by the way. I saw a video of 2 Venezuelan planes buzzing this U.S. warship. Okay, I cannot find the video now. I might show you tomorrow. Okay. Let's continue with some other news, but it is factual. That's all I want to say, that yes, these Venezuelan planes actually fly by this U.S. warship, and they should be very careful. This is not games, by the way. U.S. militaries were ordered by Trump to take action and to shut down these planes. I can give you for sure video of that when Trump was ordering their militaries to take action. This is the video.
Well, I would say they're going to be in trouble. We'll let them know about that. We heard that happen, but it wasn't really over, not like they described. But I would say, General, if
it was over the, I mean, not necessarily over the warship, but they fly by the warship, right? Very close. I saw the video, by the way, so it was close.
If they do that, you have a choice of doing anything you want, okay? If they fly in a dangerous position, I would say that you can, you or your captains can make the decision as to what they want to do, all right?
Sure. Sir, how close did they get? We have one more. You said they didn't go over.
Say it?
How close did they get? You said the planes did not.
Well, I don't want to talk about that, but if they do put us in a dangerous position, they'll be shut down. Thank you very much.
So you see, by the way, this is a quite strange description, isn't it? If they will put us in danger, what do you mean by that? And he is giving an order to its militaries to shut down plane if they think this plane is doing something that they should not. Right? Fly by is not endangering no one, right? You can fly by until actual hostility was committed. You cannot take action. You just cannot, right? it's international waters, by the way, that all this stuff is happening. But yes, this Venezuelan plane should be very careful, and also I think they have to hide these planes somewhere as much as possible, because when US will strike, and the US will, by the way, I have no doubts about it, US will strike Venezuela, US militaries will be given orders to conduct decapitation strike on Venezuelan political and military leadership, and also on airfields to take out aviation of Venezuela, and also missile forces, right? That's going to be priority orders on US militaries, right? And Caracas have to hide those planes somewhere. F-16s are not as agile as Russian planes, but still they can take off from some highways, right? I believe they can take off from highways. So there are going to be a lot of highways, in Venezuela that can be used for that purposes, and these planes can be hidden somewhere. Instead of doing this circus, hide your planes, by the way, and when necessary, actually use them to do something, right? But they also have Russian Su-30s that are more capable than F-16s, right? And they can take off even from I don't know, unpaved roads, village roads. That's how agile these Soviet or Russian planes are. So they can be hidden for sure somewhere in the jungle. Just give them a straight line, even if it's unpaved there, just a straight line to take off, and they will. So yes, Venezuela has, by the way, capabilities to strike back, or at least try, right? When time comes. And unfortunately, at this point, it seems like US will attack Venezuela. For sure. Also, dear friends, they are getting ready. They know in Caracas that they're going to be attacked, and Maduro announced activation of Venezuela's 8 million strong militia. 8 million, by the way. They are not messing around. So Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has announced the launch of a community militia units based on 15,000 popular defense sites, which are planned to mobilize over 8 million people. This is insane, isn't it? 8 million people, even if they will mobilize 4 million, by the way, actually, or 2 million, and if they are given the weapons. That's quite something, by the way, right? If there is, that's why I said, by the way, if there is a will among Venezuelan people not to allow US to recolonize their country, in that case, they will fight. They will fight with whatever means, right? With whatever weapons they will get their hands on. And in that case, US not going to be able to recolonize the Venezuela. They might take off Maduro's government, by the way, for sure. US can do this. But to occupy country, right, and to have actual control over the country, that's a whole different story. And if people of Venezuela are for independence, they will fight, and US would not be able to defeat them, right? Just would not. And yet again, this 8 million may be exaggeration, but if they are able to mobilize 2-3 million reservists, that's quite a lot. That's quite something, man. How are you going to fight that? After all, yes, US has a great navy, or used to have a great navy, significant capabilities, but nevertheless, by the way, Venezuela is still quite far away from mainland US, right? And the logistics of their operation to occupy Venezuela are going to be a nightmare, isn't it? It's not like a Ukrainian crisis. I mean, Ukraine, this former Soviet Republic, is bordering Russia. So from a logistical standpoint, it's not that extremely difficult stuff for Russian side to do proper logistics everywhere, right? But let's say if Ukraine was located somewhere where France is, for example, in Europe, that would be a very different story. Logistics would be the nightmare then. And well, same goes for US. No matter how powerful or capable their navy is, logistics is gonna be hell of a challenge for them. So Venezuela may actually withstand this standoff. Also, dear friends, as I said, unfortunately, escalation seems to be inevitable. And CNN, for example, reported that U.S. President Donald Trump is actually considering multitude of options for carrying out military strikes inside Venezuela. So they are now working on plans, when to strike, how to strike, with what forces. That's what they are working on. Decision to strike has been already made, if I understand correctly, this report from the CNN. But this is CNN, by the way, right? We should take anything from CNN with a pinch of salt. But if decision to strike Venezuela was not made, then why would US send a strike group, right? It's 7 or 8 vessels already, including amphibious vessels. US is deploying aviation. Maybe in upcoming days, we're going to see deployment of aircraft carrier too, because they're going to need one. They're going to need one, They are sending tankers, right? And you remember last time we hear anything about aerial refueling planes, aerial tankers, was when US was preparing strikes on Iran. And they are sending their tankers now also to the region, right? So they are preparing to strike. Question is when this strike will happen. And Trump, by the way, makes headlines literally like, I don't know, like no one else does, right? He is good at this. He is a showman, isn't he? And for example, by the way, he actually made decision to rename Pentagon into Department of War, right? Department of Defense is now Department of War officially, and head of Pentagon is a Secretary of War. And their official pages, by the way, have been already changed. I believe I did share this information on my Telegram and Twitter page here. And you can see there, these official pages, Secretary of War, Pat Hexeter, Department of War, Pentagon's official page. It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't really get this stuff. But Trump, while making this announcement yesterday, went to say that U.S. won both world wars and all the conflicts in between, and the U.S. won everything, right? U.S. defeated everyone, everywhere, in this universe, in every other universes. He loves to talk some nonsensical stuff, and let me give you a short clip on that too, and then I will provide some commentary on it. On that. They love brag about it, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. This is part of their political class. I mean, political culture, I guess, in the US. They always love to act like this tough guy and these bullies and that kind of stuff, man. Which looks insane, by the way. I mean, in US, maybe public loves that, but outside of US, I mean, people are watching and seeing. I mean, these are grown-up people, man. Why they are acting this insane, right? This inadequate. That's how the rest of the world sees all this stuff. And let me give you Trump statements.
Department of War. So we won the First World War, we won the Second World War, we won everything before that and in between, and then we decided to go woke and we changed the name to Department of Defense. So we're going Department of War.
So yes, Department of War, and they won everything, by the way. First World War, Second World War. They were among winners, right? For sure, U.S. No one denies that U.S. played important role in defeating Nazi Germany and fascist Japan. No doubts about that. No one is denying this, right? I don't know why public figures, politicians in U.S. went crazy due to recent celebrations of their 80th anniversary of the defeat, end of Second World War and defeat of Japan. That was celebrated big time in Beijing. I mean, they could go if they wanted to and be presented in that celebration, right? China did not say that it's just Chinese that defeated Japan. They never said this, right? Maybe they did not pay much attention during their speeches to highlight the role of every country that participated. It's not just US, by the way, but in that case, we should mention literally dozens and dozens of countries that were allies, right, during the Second World War, including Soviet Union, by the way. But they never claimed that it was Chinese that defeated single-handedly Japan. But they went crazy in Washington, by the way. How dare they are celebrating this? I mean, go and celebrate too, man. Oh, you don't even have to go into China, celebrate in Washington, by the way. But as we find out recently, well, when it comes to these military celebrations, US, not really ready to organize stuff. We saw what military parade looked like in US. It was a basically advertising campaign for a couple of companies in US, more than an actual military parade. It was abysmal, right? People were shocked to see, man. US militaries were unable to even march properly, man. What the hell? So, let them celebrate, man. End of Second World War. Who said that, you cannot? You can celebrate, but you did not even remember the date, right? Others did, and now you are angry that others remember and celebrate and never forget. What the hell? But when it comes to winning everything, by the way, I mean, I wonder what North Koreans will say about these statements of Trump, right? Or what Vietnamese will say, or Iraqis, right? Afghanis, by the way. They probably will have something to say about unbeatable or unbeaten US military. Since the Second World War, they did not really won any war. US was always engaged in wars, right? Always. I mean, there was not even a single year, I guess, when US militaries were not engaged in some hostilities somewhere in this war. And they never won. Nothing. They went big time in Vietnam. That was first in North Korea, by the way, and by miracle, US was able to turn the tide at last minute, right? North Korea was obliterating, US troops there, US and other Western troops there, and eventually, US militaries did manage to turn the tide, at least partially, right, and reach this it's 37th parallel, right, where eventually hostilities ended, but it was a bloody war for US, man. And at the time, US still had their officers, by the way, and militaries with experience, with actual battle experience of the Second World War. And they still struggled, by the way, against North Vietnamese or against Chinese troops, against Soviet pilots. Soviet Union was also engaged on side of North Korea, but mainly it was the Soviet instructors, and their pilots did play big role, right? And the Soviet MiG-15s, by the way, were menace for US Sabres, right? US fighter jets. MiG-15s were absolute menace for them. US militaries were shocked to find out that Soviet Union actually has this capable plane that the US was unable to confront, basically. Then when US come up with the Super Sabre, F-86 that was, isn't it? Super Sabre was more or less capable of beating MiG-15, but by that time, Soviet Union had their MiG-17, right? And work was on MiG-19 done. But MiG-15 definitely went down in history as a legendary plane, basically because of the North Korean War, right? Then it was Vietnam, by the way. Then it was Vietnam, and we all know how that went for US militaries, isn't it? Then they went in numerous campaigns, Iraq, by the way. they spent trillions there. They lost so many lives there. And what is the most tragic, by the way, right, for U.S. militaries, I will say, and families of the U.S. militaries, they lost less people, significantly less people in the battle, by the way, and during the occupation or fighting with insurgency in Iraq, than they are losing during the inside the U.S. itself. Reports are that 30,000 plus veterans, U.S. veterans, committed suicide, which is crazy, isn't it? 30,000 veterans committed suicide. So you know, that's another side of this crazy policies that Washington is engaged in, right? And eventually, U.S. lost in Iraq, right? And basically, they gifted Iraq to Iran, because for whatever reason, U.S. leadership forgot that Iraq is a majority Shiite country, right? Southern Iraq especially is a Shiite country, brother. And who is the Shiite also? Iran, right? And obviously it was absolutely understandable from the beginning that once they will topple Saddam's regime there in Iraq, Iran gonna have an upper hand in the region, right? And tremendous influence in Iraq. And this is the case, brother. This is the case exactly, still to nowadays, right? So US lost there, obviously. Then they went to Afghanistan, and after killing so many people there, mainly civilians, by the way, they were forced to leave. We'll see how Americans left Afghanistan. That was quite embarrassing stuff, isn't it? So you tell me. I mean, some might say, well, there was a Grenada operation, right? And this and that. Yes, some tiny quasi-states might not be able to put up some resistance, but whenever U.S. was engaged in a war with a serious, more or less serious opponent, U.S. was always losing after Second World War, brother. It's just factual, right? So what Trump is bragging about there, I don't know. And why he is bragging about war constantly, and what the hell is wrong with this what was wrong with their Department of Defense? Why they are gonna call it War Department or something? It's also in like
this Department of War. So we won the First World War, we won the Second World War, we won everything before that and in between, and then we decided to go woke and we changed the name to Department of Defense. So we're going Department of War.
I don't know. He's a showman, by the way. I mean, this guy does know how to make headlines, right? How to be in focus of media. That's his job, actually, right? Anyways, dear friends, let me continue with some other news. Well, interesting information was published in New York Times, if true, of course. According to New York Times, this article, in early 2019, by the way, U.S. Navy SEALs secretly landed in North Korean soil during the Trump's talk with Kim Jong-un. The mission aimed to plant a listening device to spy on Kim communications, but collapsed after North Korean boat appeared. SEALs opened fire, killing civilians, and fled. The U.S. canceled their incident. U.S. concealed the incident, never informing Congress, despite the extreme risk of provoking a nuclear-armed DPRK. And, well, I mean, you tell me how insane is that, too. Those people, by the way, that are in charge of U.S. can literally any day trigger nuclear conflict in this war. They send Navy SEALs, they kill civilians, and almost trigger North Korea to respond there. And may U.S. don't care, the U.S. leadership may don't care about North Korean capabilities. Maybe they think, well, North Korean missiles not going to reach us. But if war will happen, the US has quite significant number of its militaries in South Korea, right? So why they are risking lives of these thousands and thousands of their own fellow citizens, militaries that are stationed there in Korean Peninsula? I don't know. Also, by the way, RIA Nostra is reporting that Trump once again demanded from Europeans to cut trade with Russia and Hungary. Hungary's foreign minister, by the way, and the European leadership or Brussels bureaucrats come up with the statements that yes, they're gonna cut trade with Russia. They're gonna impose sanctions on all the countries that are trading with Russia. That kind of crap, right? And Hungary's foreign minister Peter Szijjártó probably had enough of this stuff and said that, you know what, we are buying Russian energy openly, while other EU countries, leadership of which are very noisy, right, and act tough, they are also buying Russian energy, right, through other through third parties. And Szijjártó basically is accusing this European country leadership of those European countries for being cowards, right, and liars basically. And he also basically pointing out that if it comes to actually cutting their energy supplies from Russia directly or indirectly, then you're gonna suffer too, because you also buying it. If you didn't acknowledge it publicly, it does not mean that you are not dependent on it. You still will have issues, right? So don't mess around. That's the message of the Budapest. Although nowadays, I think Hungarian leadership did find itself in a situation when literally no one cares what they have to say, no matter how correct they are. And they are correct, by the way, right? Most of the times. TASS news agency is also reporting that Russian President Vladimir Putin to also take a part in an upcoming emergency, I would say, BRICS summit that will take place via video link. Yesterday, I reported about Chinese leader being agreed to participate in this summit that was called by Brazil's leadership, by the way, this emergency summit to work out on a combined response of BRICS on U.S. assault on BRICS member states and aggression, economical aggression, right? So on 8th of September, this summit will take place, and we will find out. We will find out what kind of countermeasures BRICS countries will agree to take against U.S. Tariff war, right? RT is also reporting that Russia keying on civil aircraft partnership with India. Yesterday, our member of our community, Nidish Kumar, reported, actually shared information in a chat about this topic exactly, that Russia is seeking partnership, cooperation with the Indian aerospace industry. And this is true, by the way. RT is also reporting about it. So Russia is looking to partner with India for manufacturing of civil aircraft. Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade Alexei Gruzdev said at the Eastern Economic Forum in Vladivostok on Friday, both Moscow and New Delhi are intensify efforts to develop next-generation aircraft and engines. Gruzdev said at the Russia-India business dialogue as a part of the forum, we see strong complementary in our approaches, which opens the door for a deeper collaboration in civil aviation. The deputy minister added New Delhi and Moscow have also been in the talks to collaboration in a military aircraft. Earlier this week, the ANI news agency said Russia is examining potential investment proposals to jointly manufacture the Sukhoi Su-57, Su-57 fighter jets in India. Oh, this is going to be good, man, also. India currently requires at least 2 squadrons of 5th generation fighter aircraft, with their main candidates being Su-57 and American-made F-35. So, yes, good news. Good news, dear friends. I'm always happy to hear about cooperation between further deepening of the cooperation between Russia and India. That's how things should be always, for many, many reasons. Right. And well, hopefully this cooperation in civil aviation, by the way, will actually go success, will become a success story, and both countries, both aerospace industries of both countries and avio companies of both countries will benefit from that, because well, India needs hundreds of new planes, right? And Russia is in the business of rebuilding aerospace industry, right, that it had during the Soviet era. And of course, Russian avio companies also need hundreds of planes, by the way. And if they are now mostly operating with the Boeings and Airbuses, I guess give it 10, 15 years. And most of the planes, hopefully, most of the planes in Russian avio companies will be a Russian builder or Russian Indian planes, for example. That will be great, isn't it? And same can be said about Indian avio companies, by the way. Now they are also operating mainly Boeings and Airbuses, but in 10, 15, 20 years, things might look very differently. Also, India continues to import Russian oil and even increases, by the way, purchases of Russian oil, despite all the pressure from their collective West, led by US. So India's imports of Russian oil rose by 5.6% in August to 1.6 million barrels per day. The Economic Times reported on Thursday, citing data from analytics provided by Kepler, and yes, India is standing strong, by the way. India is standing stronger and not gonna bow down to no one and nobody, including US, by the way. That's the main message that we see from New Delhi. That India is standing strong and no one gonna mess around it. Period. And no one gonna tell India, by the way, what to do, when, how, and with whom to cooperate with whom to not. Come on, how inadequate anybody or all those people in Western elites have to be to think that they can force India to cut ties with Moscow, by the way. Do they know anything about the history of the relationships between the two countries? Probably they don't, man. Probably they literally have no freaking idea about the history of cooperation between Moscow and India that has roots in decades and decades and decades, right? Active cooperation, by the way, that is. Unbelievable, man. So, and before I end, dear friends, this news segment, let me show you some short video of students from 21 countries, by the way, visiting North Pole aboard of a Russian nuclear icebreaker, right? This is obviously once in a lifetime moment for these students. They're gonna have a great memories, and I think this type of development, this type of news also deserves attention, isn't it? It's something positive, by the way. Unfortunately, most of the news is on some negative stuff, especially nowadays. But time to time, something good is also happening, and I'm quite keen to share this positive news.
Knowledge Arctic expedition has successfully returned to
This is RT's report, by the way.
Murmansk. The international competition sponsored by Rosatom give winners a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to travel to the North Pole and learn more about Russia's nuclear technologies. Now, this year's voyage coincides with the anniversary of the Russian nuclear industry and Northern Sea route exploration. Now, for 10 straight days, 66 students from 21 countries were aboard a nuclear icebreaker headed to the North's northernmost point. Now, they participated in lectures by top nuclear and space specialists, carrying out unique scientific experiments exclusive to the Arctic, and learned about the design and functioning of the high-tech ship. Now, here is a glimpse of what one Indonesian student had to say about the experiment.
It's really interesting because for once, I got lectured by not by someone who studied under experts, but by actual experts themselves. There was experts on quantum computers, there were experts on youth affairs, there was oceanographies, there's on nuclear reactions, there was even Deputy Minister of Economic Development, if I recall. He came there to lecture us, if I'm sure, career development in our future. They are like really friendly and outgoing people.
An Indian student was also a lucky recipient of a ticket to the North Pole. Here are some of his reflections on his incredible journey.
There's quite a few learnings I would take away from the expedition, apart from, the memories that are always going to stay with me. It's firstly to, just get up. In India, it's usually seen that you just sort of sit down, open a textbook and study. That's what study is, right? That's not just a part of study. That's not education. You go out, you have these experiences and you learn. Right? You go above and beyond and grab these opportunities really and make the most out of it. Like, for example, whenever I had the chances to, sit at a coffee table with an expert, I would do that. Whenever I had the chance to, talk to my peers about how maybe, they do things differently that I can do better back at home, I would do that. So there were so many learnings from it. And regarding the atmosphere about the icebreaker, it was quite friendly. Unexpectedly, it was quite friendly. Regardless of the language barrier, I felt welcomed and I felt received and I could relate to people.
So great, by the way, great, isn't it? It's some positive report there. And Russia, of course, by the way, is one of the leading countries when it comes to cooperations between the universities. Top Russian universities are receiving thousands of students, by the way. Thousands of students from all over the world, right? And well, that's time to time they might get this kind of absolutely unique opportunity, by the way, to get to North Pole. I mean, would not you like to have such opportunity? Of course you would, isn't it? To go to North Pole, man. It's a truly once in a lifetime, isn't it? Experience. So some positive news there, and once again, confirmation, by the way, that Russia is one of the leading countries when it comes to international cooperation and their build-up of the multipolar world that we all seek and hope that will be more just than what we have seen last 30, 40 years under this unilateral dictatorship of the Western elites. And dear friends, this is it for a news segment for now. I guess there was not a single donation or the super chat. What? Oh, there was a Patreon, by the way. New subscriber on the Patreon, right? What is the name, man? Piano Man. Thank you very much, Piano Man, for joining our community on a Patreon. Truly grateful, truly grateful. So yes, that's being said, dear friends. Well, news segment has ended. Hopefully you did like the video, first half of the video. And if so, please click that like button, dear friends, and share the video even if you can. That might help. And now I will join community chat and go through some questions. Meanwhile, if there will be any donation or super chat, of course I will switch to that and we'll go back to chat. I see now a question from Nikos. Levan, have you seen Tucker Carlson's interview with Michael Knowles? I've seen short fragments of it on a Telegram, but not entire interview. Lately, Tucker is losing me by excusing Trump, but that guy, Michael, is a neocon in disguise. He did not hesitate to domain Russia, disputing Tucker's proof about Putin's popularity and there are people's agreement with the war. He also said that things are bad in Russia. How are things for people? I mean, by the way, why would you care to listen to someone that has no freaking idea about Russia? I mean, who the hell is this Michael Knowles, by the way? I know person itself. I have seen his videos. He is a fake individual, isn't it? He is a clearly fake individual. He has no dignity, no morality, no principles. Just take a look at his statements in regards to Israeli actions in Palestine. That will tell you all, right? This is a disgrace of humanity. Scum. That's what Michael Knowles is, and why Tucker Carlson wasted the time to talk to this nobody, right? I don't know. And definitely, I would not recommend anybody, by the way, to take his word on anything related to anything, including Russia. He has no idea what Russia is, how life is going in Russia, nothing. So should I comment seriously on his nonsensical stuff? Why should we waste time? Nikos, he knows nothing about Russia, literally, right? I mean, just a couple of days ago, if you want to know, first of all, come to Russia, Nikos. If you can afford, just come to Russia, by the way, and see yourself. If you're doubting what I have said before, for example, that Russia is doing okay, by the way, Russian economy is doing okay. Every Russian regions is increasing their capabilities. Life is improving, right? Despite all the sanctions, by the way, from the West. If you find it difficult to believe me, okay, by the way, I have no issue with that. Just come to Russia and see yourself. I mean, you know, and then report about it. Not just Moscow, but not just Moscow. I mean, probably you are not subscriber to my Patreon, but if you were, you probably have seen my videos from Vladikavkaz, for example. It's 2,000 kilometers away from Moscow, right? And I went there on the streets, in parks, in shopping malls, in stores, by the way, right? 2,000 kilometers away from Russia. You know, Western propaganda, they say, well, life in Moscow is one story, and you go outside of Moscow, it's a depressed area everywhere, and you know, nothing is there. Well, Vladikavkaz is 2,000 kilometers away, is far enough from Moscow. And members of our Patreon community have seen my videos, right, that I was making in there, in the capital of North Ossetia, Alani. And I believe, by the way, you go in, I don't know, in Vladivostok or in Ekaterinburg and just anywhere, but take any city, literally any city, but here in Russia. You go there and you will find, you talk to people and you will find out that life has tremendously improved since, let's say, with what to compare, since 90s, let's take, right? If you want to see actual improvement, I mean, if you want to understand how serious the jump is, right, in terms of improvement, and if you want to understand why people are supporting Putin, then you have to talk to people. And they will tell you, by the way, that it's like actual two different universes, Russia in 90s and Russia now. Everywhere, by the way. In Moscow, in Vladikavkaz, in, I don't know, Murmansk, Vladivostok, Ekaterinburg, just Kaliningrad, everywhere. And because of this tremendous improvement of life, quality of life, security, safety, right? Economy in general, people are happy. People are happy, and Putin's rating, I don't think Putin's rating ever dropped below 70%, man. He is popular, you know, and I'm not the one that voted for him. Okay, I mean, I did not vote for Putin. There was elections, isn't it? Like 2 years ago, that is. I did not vote for the guy. For my reasons, by the way, right? I don't like that he's restrained policies, for example. right? That's enough reason to me not to vote for him. And also, I won't, even though I'm happy that there is a tremendous increase in the fight against corruption, I'm still, I mean, I want more. I want more fight against corruption, and I want corrupt officials to be designated as traitors and treated as such, right? And if when next presidential election comes or parliamentary election, if any party, any politician will say that in their platform they will gonna have this point that they're gonna designate, they're gonna make some changes in the law and designate corrupt officials as traitors, because it is a treason, right, of the people. That's what they're committing, actually, treason of the people. So if anybody will say, you know, they're gonna designate them as traitors and treat as traitors and confiscate everything they had, everything, by the way, in favor of state, I will vote for that party, right? And so what I want to say is that I did not vote for Putin, by the way, but nevertheless, I have to acknowledge objective reality, isn't it? Majority of people that I know voted for him and are supporters of him, majority. So, I mean, I don't, it's not just like there is some studies and, you know, do I believe studies or not? I believe what I see, by the way, myself, right? Majority of people that I'm communicating here in Russia are Putin supporters and voted for him. That's it, man. You know? Now, what you're going to do about it, man? You have to accept it, because that's the people's choice. So is he popular? Yes, he is popular, by the way, and I explain why. Because people are associating Putin with this tremendous progress, by the way, tremendous success that Russia had since the 90s, right? But anyways, I mean, best I can tell you, Nikos, come to Russia if you can, of course. It's nowadays, due to Western sanctions, it's a bit difficult. You have to go through some third country and come to Russia. From there, I don't think if you're leaving Greece now, I don't think there is direct flights between Greece and Russia, but you can go to Georgia and come from Georgia to Russia, or you can go to Armenia or Kazakhstan or Turkey. There is opportunities there, right? And just see yourself. You are one of the most active commentators on the internet, if not the most active and well-known commentators, right? In alternative media field, at least. And, you know, you can come, see, right, what is going on, and then report about it. That will be great, actually, isn't it? Make your channel, by the way. I mean, you know, I will put your channel into recommendation list that I have under every video on YouTube, and you know, just tell the people true as you see it here in Russia. Because if you, despite all my reports, by the way, still have some doubts, then I'm not going to convince you, right? If you believe people like this Michael Knowles, by the way, there's no way I'm going to convince you, right, that we are actually doing okay, right? I never said Russia is like paradise and there are no issues or something like that. No, there is issues, of course, by the way, right? And it's this is true everywhere, right? We ordinary people, by the way, we are going through some issues constantly. That's how life is, you know. Better positioned you are in this in terms of status. Let's say if you are middle class, then you know your life is better than my life, for example. Because I'm not in the middle class, unfortunately. I think middle class can be called only people that have their properties, right, their home. But then, you know, among us, people that are not in the middle class, but nevertheless, you know, we still live, isn't it? Among us also, there is a difference, right? There are people with their certain incomes and achievements, and there are people with their less or more And same goes for middle class. There is different quality of life among middle class people too. And then there are freaking billionaires, by the way, that are everywhere, like similar. They don't really know what real life is actually, right? They only see real life through their armored car windows. So come to Russia, by the way, and then you will see that even if I am saying, by the way, right, I'm low income, lower or middle income, maybe family, right? If I was living somewhere else, of course, I would be positioned better. But in Moscow, well, that's a whole different story. This is a very expensive city. And, well, life is not easy, but we are doing okay, by the way, right? It's a stressful, yes. It's nothing is easy, but it's okay. We are doing good, by the way. And we are optimistic. This is also important that people in general are optimistic, right? I have a hope that maybe in 2, 3, 4 years time, I'll be able to get a mortgage, for example, and before I die, I will manage to pay off that mortgage and to live to my kids' home, right? That's my dream, kind of, and I'm optimistic that I might be able to do it, right? Other people have other dreams or other hopes, and we are okay, man. Come to Russia, and you will find out. And don't take words of some nobodies, man. Michael, who the hell is Michael Knowles to talk about Russia, man? Has he even ever been in Russia? Ever? I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, And by the way, when it comes to Western media personalities, I do monitor time to time, what they do and what they say. And let me tell you, very often, they are factually inaccurate. They clearly lack knowledge about Russia. Clearly, I mean, and I'm talking about some basics, right? And recently, I was even thinking to create a program for a Boosty, right? And take their videos and just comment on their videos where in which part they are wrong, right? And debunk them. I cannot do this video on YouTube or even on Patreon because who knows, man? They might hear about it or their supporters and try to shut down my channels there. But Boosty is a different story. I don't think Boosty will give a damn about complaints of null supporters, for example, or anyone else's. And if I had time, and maybe I'll do it on a Boosty. I don't know, because every time I watch, by the way, either the creators from this what their company called, Shapiro's company, by the way, I forget the name. All that bunch of creators from Shapiro camp, they are very wrong on many occasions, right? Same can be said about breaking points, by the way. I used to be a supporter of breaking points when they started, right? I was watching those guys, Crystal Bell and this other one, when they were working on Hills, right? They had the Ryzen program. And but then on many occasions they demonstrated that they are unable to say the truth as it is, right? They are misled or misleading people, either intentionally or unintentionally, but they are making very many mistakes. What about this British guy, former editor of Mirror or something? I forgot his freaking name, man. Anyways, by the way, maybe one day I began these programs when I will take their entire segments and will go through all the errors that they are making, factual errors, by the way. If that will be interesting for community, I can actually do this. Let me remind you, dear friends, that while I'm online, you can use super chat feature on Rumble to donate. Also, you can use PayPal or Boosty. Today is, weekends basically. Today, tomorrow, like fundraising stuff for next week. For now, we have information about a new member on the Patreon. Ань. Да, пожалуйста. So I'm scrolling now, dear friends, through comment section, through chat, to see any question directed to me. There was nothing, right? Okay. So I guess this fundraising gonna be failure. Okay, maybe tomorrow we will do a little better. I don't know. I see a comment from David Buter. Levan, you are correct. The West has gone completely insane. Bannon, who I respected, is totally off their scale in a war rhetoric. Is no one in the West willing to talk peace? From influential ones, no one. Yes, they are all about war and escalation because they feed on that. They feed on war and destruction. They all either directly profiteering from wars, being a part of the military-industrial complex or related fields, or they being paid by these profiteers, right? And therefore, all you hear from the West is escalation, by the way. They use words like peace and this and that just for propaganda purposes. But if you actually take a look at the policies, what they do, not what they talk, although even on a rhetoric level, they are tremendously hostile. But if you take a look at their policies, actual policies, then they are all about war and their hostility, escalation. That's how their systems in the West are built, actually, right? And it's almost 2 hours, by the way. It's almost 2 hours, and well, today's. Let me end, by the way, today's live stream. Then it did not work out as a fundraising, isn't it? Maybe tomorrow will be a better day, but anyways, thank you all, dear friends, for your attention. Have a wonderful day and take care. Bye for now.